There's been a great deal of speculation as to whether I would run for president. And if I were willing to absolutely rule that out, I could keep doing this show. But I can't make such a declaration.
President Mike Huckabee has a nice ring to it if you're the aforementioned prior candidate who believes the time is right to launch yet another shot at the White House. As the new Congress gets to work, there's a need to start nailing down those who have a real shot at leading and those who are destined, for whatever reason, to be perennial followers. Let's welcome to MidPoint columnist for National Review Online, senior editor at the American Spectator, and contributor here at Newsmax. Always a pleasure to get the inside from John Fund. John, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ed.
Let's get right to it because we're going to get to the Congress in a couple of minutes, but their work is just continuing now. Let's talk about the real fun stuff here, and that's Mike Huckabee, the latest to say, I'm going to go ahead and give it another shot. Honestly, John, is this someone that everybody should look at and say a real possibility, or is this just somebody getting involved, looking to present himself, but has zero chance of being president?
I don't think you can ever say zero. Mike Huckabee did extremely well in Iowa in 2008, and I think that any candidate who gets ahead of steam in the early primaries can conceivably build momentum. Having said that, he's clearly a distinct underdog. But you know, I'm glad that everyone is running this time, Ed, because in the past, the Republican Party had too little competition. It always gave the nomination to the next guy in line, whether it was George H.W. Bush or Bob Dole or George W. Bush or John McCain or Mitt Romney. So let's have an open and competitive race, which we haven't had in the Republican Party for something like 50 years, and let's hear everybody out, and the voters will make up their minds after they hear the debates.
Let's take the other side of that, because you make a good point, but again, when you have so many people involved, so many voices, so many ideas on why I'm the guy, why I'm the gal to get it done here, the American people sometimes seem to get lost in all this, John, and they really can't make a proper decision. They don't do the research on a lot of this. So aren't these voices and too many voices just going to muddle this picture?
Well, you'd be right if we had a 50-state primary system, all states voting at the same time. We don't. Iowa goes first, then New Hampshire, then you go to South Carolina, then you've got Nevada, you know, all parts of the country represented. Voters in those states are used to paying attention to the candidates, used to getting enough information, and used to casting very informed votes. So I don't think we have to worry about that. By the time those 4 states are finished, you're going to have the field winnowed down to 2, maybe 3 candidates at most. And believe me, the rest of the country can figure it out from there.
Is it fair to say that, at least in Mike Huckabee's case, if the evangelical Christians are the ones who truly, again, get behind him and let their muscle flex a little bit politically, that is the reason why he could become a real favorite?
It would be if he had the field to himself, but all of the candidates will have some evangelical support, especially Rick Santorum, who won Iowa in 2012 over Mitt Romney, largely by attracting the same kind of voters that voted for Huckabee in Iowa in 2008. So if both Santorum and Huckabee run, I think they may do very well in terms of getting a better TV gig and better speaking engagements and more notoriety, but it would diminish the chances of either of them going forward to the nomination or the vice presidency.
About a minute left before we take a break. 2 other candidates here. Jeb Bush has started a new political action committee. It would seem to be a fait accompli that he will run, but is he a good enough campaigner in order to become president? That seems to be the knock I'm hearing about him.
Well, we haven't seen him campaign yet. He hasn't been on the ballot anywhere since 2002. That would lead some people to say he's rusty. Other people would say, you know, let's see him perform on the stump. I'm not completely convinced that Jeb Bush is running. I think he still has to square some things with his family. But assuming he does run, we're going to know soon enough how rusty he is. And he's making all the right moves in terms of positioning himself for the nomination. He'll be an establishment choice, but he'll be probably the most conservative choice of the establishment we've had in decades.
30 seconds. How about Chris Christie? Oh, you're not a fan of the Eagles, I would hope, first of all.
You know, I stay neutral in those battles, and Chris Christie might have been wise to do so as well. Chris Christie has enormous support in the Northeast, but at the same time, he's governing a state which is very troubled. Atlantic City is collapsing. Unemployment is still high in New Jersey. He hasn't solved the pension problem there. I think Chris Christie is going to be judged in part by what he can do to work with the Democratic legislature to actually turn New Jersey around, because if he's running from a state that seems to be in decline, that'll hurt his national chances.
Yeah, hopefully not with the team he roots for. Hang on just a second here, John. Break will return to zero in on the first day of real work for the new Congress. That and much more coming up right here on MidPoint.